hear. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I was on mute. My apologies. Hi, everybody. It's Kimberly Peeler-Allen, co-founder of Higher Heights. It is so good to be back with all of you. I don't think I've been on a webinar all summer with all of you. As those of you who are our longtime members know, I am taking a little time to work on a book, and we'll have a whole other conversation with Feminista about how this book writing process. Ooh, Lord.
Yeah.
But we are thrilled to be here this evening as part of our Black woman talkbacks with authors. Glenda Carr and I co-founded Higher Heights to harness the political power of Black women. We just felt that we needed a space of our own. And our goal was to really create a space for Black women to be informed, engaged, and take action. We wanted to create a powerful network of Black women to really foster an environment where Black women at all levels could lead and see their faces, themselves in leadership. With members like you on the phone and across the country, we made this home for Black women. And our network has helped elect the largest number of Black women to serve in Congress, grow the number of Black women leading our top 100 cities, and continue to grow the number of Black women in statewide executive office. Higher Heights is a rapidly growing community of activists, donors, and members, and together have invested in Black women's leadership and candidates and volunteered to make calls, send text messages, to get out the vote and amplify the issues that are priority number one for us. And we've also helped shape the debate around Black women's leadership, about what leadership looks like in this country, and the issues and conversations that are not part of the regular discourse are now part of the conversation. And Feminista is a big reason that we have been so successful in this space. We continue to grow, and we are dependent on those of you on the phone and online to help us to continue to grow. This has been a conversation, woman by woman, ally by ally, to really build this organization for us, by us, and we continue to rely on recommendations and connections and forwarded emails and text messages to help expand our network. So for all of you who are on the phone right now, welcome home. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm being sworn in as the first Black woman to serve in Congress. And she has created a blueprint on how to lead in an unbought and unbossed fashion. To celebrate her and her legacy, Higher Heights launched a series of Chisholm 50 lists. Our second list was a summer reading list of 50 amazing Black women authors. And as we say goodbye to summer, though I think everybody's bracing themselves, at least on the East Coast and across the South, for 90 degrees plus tomorrow. Now that we are in October, but global warming's not a thing. We are in the throes of our Talkback series with these amazing authors, and there are 7 of the 50 we are bringing to you. And these author talkbacks are for everyone. You may have read the book, you may have started the book, you may have heard about the book, and we provide an opportunity for you to meet these authors, understand what made them want to write these books, dive a little deeper with some of the stories that they couldn't include, and really give you a little more than what you get between the 2 covers of the book. This is a chance to directly hear from the authors on their insights about leadership, the current state of our country, and God knows what else. So go to higherheightsforamerica.org to check out the Chisholm 50 list, and you can directly purchase those books, all of those books, on Amazon. There's links there. And during our webinar, we strongly encourage you to share this conversation on social media. You can use the hashtag BlackWomenLead and tag Higher Heights at Higher Heights and Feminista Jones at Feminista Jones, and me at KimberP_A. So we will open the conversation for a few questions and answers at the end, but this will be a dialogue between me and Feminista about her amazing book and some of the stories therein. So when we get to the point of questions, if you are logging in to view this webinar online, you can put your questions right in the chat box on the left-hand side of your screen, or there is a place at the top of the page, top of the screen, where you can also drop in questions. If you are listening via phone, you can text your question to 646-494-9620, and we will include that into the conversation. Again, that number is 646-494-9620. We are so excited to have not just an amazing author, but a true friend and a longtime Founding Circle member of Higher Heights, Feminista Jones, join us today to talk about her latest book, Reclaiming Our Space: How Black Feminists Are Changing the World from the Tweets to the Streets.
Thank you.
So now that we're all here, let's do a quick roll call. Where's everybody dialing in from? For those of you online, you can drop it in the box. You can text us. We just want to see, where is everybody? Got Susan from Boston. I know I'm here in Brooklyn. Feminista, you're in Philly?
I'm in Philadelphia. Yeah, I'm in Philly. I'll be in New York this weekend, though. My kid is turning 13, so we're having a big party in the city.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome.
We have Raleigh.
Somebody chimed in from Raleigh.
Yeah. And I think I see a DC number.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, DC, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into it. So Feminista Jones is a Philadelphia-based social worker, feminist writer, public speaker, and community activist. She is an award-winning blogger and the author of the novel Push the Button, the poetry collection The Secret of Sugar Water, and the highly anticipated Reclaiming Our Space, which we are here to talk about tonight. Her work centers around Black American culture, critical race theory, intersectionality, women's health, and well-being. She sits on the board of Wayfinder Foundation, a grant-making organization that invests in women making a difference in their underserved communities, and the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice. Feminista's passion is writing, and hers has been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Time, Essence, Complex, Vox, Salon, and Ebony. In 2017, Feminista was named one of the most influential people in Philadelphia by Philadelphia Magazine, and was later featured in Philadelphia Style Magazine for her community work in 2018. Since 2013, Feminista has presented and lectured at various colleges and universities, including Princeton, Cornell, Columbia, Boston University, UC Berkeley, and the University of Pennsylvania. Please tell me you didn't do that all at once, because your frequent flyer miles must be off the chain.
Yes, they are.
She is a highly sought after presenter for major conferences and has presented at several, including Netroots Nation, Blog Her, Woodhull Freedom Summit, Stanford University's online feminist conference, Drexel's Racism in Medicine conference, and many more. In 2018, she was honored to give the baccalaureate speech during Vassar College's commencement weekend. Feminista is a mom, a mentor to young girls and women, and an outspoken advocate for the homeless people living in poverty and those living with psychiatric disabilities. So welcome, Feminista.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I just say how much I hate hearing my bio read?
Oh,
I'm always like,
Lady brag,
who is
stand in
that?
your power, own all of that. That is you. That is you.
It's on the website though, but thank you so much. Oh my goodness. This is great. It's funny because the first half of this year I was on a book tour, and yes, frequent flyer miles. I was everywhere. I was doing both the book tour and my speaking tour. So I was like hitting states I hadn't been to. I'm now down to only 5 states I haven't been to in the country. It's been
Wow.
great. No, but it's been great, and I've got to meet so many people and talk about the book, and people seem to love it, which is every author's kind of dream that people just love it. I think I have like full 5-star ratings on like Amazon and stuff, so it's been great.
Yep. Yeah. Fantastic. So this book is part memoir, and you share your journey to finding and using your own voice, but it's also a history book, and spotlights critical, sometimes little known stories of some of the top hashtags that have sparked debate and changed the conversation and the narrative. This book also provides analysis on how Black women have used social platforms like Twitter to build community and shape narratives on issues from culture, race, gender, politics. How did you approach writing this book? And what was the goal? Like, what said to you, I need to write this particular book and tell these stories?
I love telling this story because I was never thinking about writing this book. A great woman editor, a sister, Black woman, Rakia Clark from Beacon Press, reached out to me because my name had been dropped by a mutual person that we know. And she reached out to me and was like, "Have you ever written, anything about, their feminism and your work and stuff like that?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Would you?" And we met in Harlem, and it was a great conversation. She furiously took down notes, and she sent everything back to me. And she was like, "I think we have a book here." And I was like, "I think we have one too. Let's do it." And we dived into working together. And to be honest, I never wanted to write anything remotely like a memoir because I just think I'm entirely too young to write a memoir. But what I realized was that what I was writing about was stuff that I was very much a part of, and it would be kind of weird to talk
Mhm.
about Black women, mobilizing and organizing and things like that, and not talk about myself. So I
Right.
reluctantly, believe it or not, I reluctantly wrote about myself because I was here to write about all my friends and all my peers who were doing amazing work. So we approached the book. I was thinking like essays, like how can I write about these different topics but bring them all together? I wanted to talk about Black motherhood. I wanted to talk about hip hop. I wanted to talk about sex. I wanted to talk about politics. I wanted to talk about Black feminism. How do we piece it all
Mhm.
together? And the way that I went about writing it, I just kind of wrote it in as essays. And then we found ways, again, Rakia is one of the most amazing editors ever. She helped me find ways to string it together. And that's how we came up with it.
Awesome. Awesome. So, for those of you who don't follow Feminista on Twitter, you definitely should. There is something seriously lacking in your life, and you won't know that it was lacking until you start following her. Um, along those lines, can you talk a little bit about some of the hashtags that
Mhm,
have really? I mean, we know the big ones. We know Black
mhm,
Lives Matter.
mhm,
We know Black Girl Magic, but there's
mhm,
so many others that have, in their own way, they may not have gotten the all of the attention, but they
mhm,
still, in their own way, really changed the debate and
mhm.
really broadened the awareness of the issue.
Yeah, you know what? I think what happened was around 2014, 2013. We started using hashtags like in funny ways. Like originally, Twitter wanted hashtags to just kind of be like, "This is a topic, people can whatever," but we started using them in humorous ways. There would be a blunder in the news, and we would respond with something like, "I created racism started when they were talking about racism ended when Rosa Parks sat on the bus," something like that, or like when they would
Right.
confuse black stars. We would just it would be funny, and that's how we would all come together as community. And I think we started realizing that using hashtags in this way was building community. And then how could we start using them in more powerful ways? And this was also around the time that Black Lives Matter became really popular, and then the hashtag Ferguson became popular. But then there have been these other ones like Why I Stayed, which I talk about in the book by Beverly Gooden, which was launched a conversation about why women don't leave domestic abusive relationships, right? Then I started one called You Okay Sis, which is about street harassment and the experiences Black women have with street harassment and how we're often ignored. And it became like a rallying call and support call that even if you look at it now, people are still using it. And this was 5 years ago. There was these other ones that would just really spark these important conversations. Solidarities for White Women by Mickey Kendall, right? Um, just starting these conversations, and we started realizing that Twitter could be really valuable for not only just bringing us together, but educating people about issues that they hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, I mean, Black Twitter is fierce,
Mm.
and we saw that. Just you see it almost daily. But I think most prominently, most recently, was the clapback on Bette Midler last week when she said that it would be great if Beyonce would mobilize the Beehive to come out and vote. And Black Twitter went bananas
Hmm.
and clap back with like you said, informing, like reminding her that Black women did what we were supposed to do in 2016. She should be
Right.
directing that to Taylor Swift and Katy Perry, that
Hmm.
they need to mobilize their voters.
Right.
And we'd love to get your thoughts about ways that those hashtags and Twitter in particular have been very critical of public figures, and the way that that response has also shifted the opinion or the
Hmm.
position of a public figure.
Hmm. So about 6 years ago, I published an article in Salon called Is Black Twitter the Underground Railroad for Activism?" And in that article, which is cited often because it really is, I believe, the first article by a Black person to talk about Black Twitter as a movement building kind of thing in a major publication. I talked about the hashtag Vote Ready. So back then,
Mm-hmm.
Vote Ready was the first hashtag I remember seeing on Twitter that was being used to mobilize people to get registered to vote, to become informed about, the candidates, and to really get out there and spread the word. And I think in the article I wrote, like, it had over a million uses, which at that time was unheard of. Like, a hashtag being used a million times. I mean, nowadays it's nothing when you look at like Ferguson and Black Lives Matter, and they're into like 20, 30 million. But
Right.
back then that was amazing. And I started people started really paying attention. They're like, well, wait a minute. This Black Twitter thing, they're not just about jokes. They're actually about
Mm-hmm.
educating each other, mobilizing each other. They may have an influence on the election, like the upcoming elections. And I think that more Black people, particularly people that are plugged into Black Twitter, started realizing that we have something here and we need to start using it for political influence. And so in the book, I do have a chapter called, Black Women Won't Save You. And it's really kind of talking about this trend, right? Of saying, listen to Black women, and Black women have been telling us, and all these kinds of things. And it's like, yeah, we have, but at the same time, we're not about to be your shield against the onslaught. We're not about to be your mules. We're not about to be the ones to carry everyone. And maybe if you'd listened to us 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we might not be in the position that we're in. And so Black women
Right.
are cognizant of how we harness our political power. But the last thing we need is for people to kind of mammify us like, ooh, save us, Black women, because we can't seem
Mm-hmm.
to get it right. We need you to do it. And what you
Right.
see online is Black women really, organizing, creating these different conversations, creating organizations, doing digital organizing around politics in a way that you just don't see other people doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and self promotion.
Yes.
You do an outstanding job chronicling Higher Heights origin
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
and the Black Women Lead hashtag,
Yeah.
and how it how we came up with it,
Hmm.
and how it was used with WAP, and what we've been able to move with through using that hashtag.
Mhm.
And thank you for telling our story.
Yeah, the book part of the biggest thing I wanted to do in the book was make amplify work that was being done that I didn't think enough people knew about. So throughout the book, I talk to people that a lot of people have no idea what they're doing, or maybe they kind of heard about them. And so when I reached out to Glinda, I was like, "Look, I want to talk about how higher heights because what y'all are doing is like nothing we've ever seen. And Black women lead and Black women vote, those are powerful. So I wanted to be able to tell the story. The whole point of the book was to capture this moment in history and make sure that people never forget the work that happened. When they go back and look at the Trump era and things like that, they're going to see
Right.
that Black women were doing the work.
Yep. 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 Absolutely. Pivoting a little bit to your personal story,
Hmm.
I'm always curious. I'm very comfortable and have embraced the term of calling myself a Black feminist.
Hmm.
And I've had lots of conversations with some of my friends who don't aren't comfortable with that term,
Mm.
and they see the term feminism as a white woman's term
Hmm.
that doesn't include us. And I look at it like I can, the principles of feminism are things that I eat, sleep, breathe. So
Hmm.
why can't I call myself that just because
Mm.
someone else?
Right.
The history of the term is, in some folks' minds, clouded. Would love to
Mm.
get your thoughts around your feminism. You talk a lot about
Hmm.
it in the book, and
Hmm.
how exploring people like Sojourner Truth
Yeah.
and Anna Julia Cooper and
Hmm.
others really informed that. And all of these conversations that we've had, all of the authors talk about how they walk at that intersection of
Hmm.
race and gender. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about, where you found yourself
Hmm.
at that moment, and how you see your feminism.
Yeah, I have been having that same conversation for literally decades now. Um, because and one of the things I've come to understand is that Black women have internalized a bit of this idea that we're not real women, that real womanhood is
Mm-hmm.
whiteness and that we're hyphenated women. And so some and that's reiterated within our communities, right? The ways in which we are juxtaposed to white women, we're not considered as beautiful or as valuable, things like that. And I think that over time we've internalized it. So then pretty much anything that white women do, somehow we shy away from it. We either try to emulate it or we shy away from it or we push it away and reject it completely. And I think that that's something that happened with feminism. I think a lot of people conflate the suffrage movement with feminism as well. And it's like, well, that started the whole thing. And it's like, no, I wanted to put some history in the book and let people know that feminism existed before the suffragettes, right? That
Mm-hmm.
feminism has existed among Black women all around the world for centuries now. So I brought up Anna Julia Cooper and Sojourner Truth and some others so that people could at least get a little bit of their story, but then kind of dig in and feel empowered themselves. And that's what really helped me. My introduction to feminism was through hip hop culture and music. And before I even picked up a book or got into the academy, I learned a lot about that through my mom and also mostly through hip hop, especially sex positive feminism. And it encouraged me to learn more. And so that's when I began studying in high school and college and started to realize that, listen, I am no more Black than I am a woman, and I am no more a woman than I am Black. I will not be forced to choose. I will not prioritize one over the other. When there are Black issues going on, I will always find the gender issue that's involved. When there are gender issues going on, I will always find the Black issue. That is what I feel my role is. Like
Mm-hmm.
this we can use an example today. This woman, the white police woman that was found
Mm-hmm.
guilty of murder for killing a Black man. And I was like,
Right.
well, it's because she's a woman. And it's like I'm not defending her in any way, but how often
Right.
do white men get convicted of things like that? I mean, we think of somebody like Daniel Holtzclaw, who was abusing Black women. He was half Asian. He got convicted. It seems like in order to get convicted, you have to be a person of color or a woman. And it's hard to not
Mm-hmm.
think about that, right? I can't just look at this as like, yes, justice was served when I know daggone well if it was a white man, I don't think that he would have
Right.
been convicted, right? So, that's what
Right.
living at the intersection means. It means looking at something like Bill Cosby's case and R. Kelly's case and waiting on brothers to be like, that's wrong, instead of they're trying to take a black man down. It's constantly
Mhm.
trying to affirm these parts of you that within our community, I feel like there's an urge to be race first. And if you're not, somehow you're a traitor. And then for women, a lot of times when the women's movement, it's like, we're all women. So, we don't need to. No, I am everything. I'm all of these things. And that's how I exist
Right.
at the intersection. And I never let people forget it.
Mhm. Yeah, you bring up a couple of interesting points. I just had a very engaged conversation on Facebook about a week ago around an article that talked about it came out of a story of a black woman who was in Target, and a white woman reached over her child like she was a piece of furniture, and
Mm,
the black mother basically lost her mind,
mhm,
and the white woman, you know, filmed, and you're out of control, your
mhm,
daughter's scared, and all of
mhm,
this. And then at the end of the day, the white woman actually ended up. I don't know if she was arrested, but she at least got a citation,
mhm,
and it prompted a conversation on my Facebook page of women, other black women, talking about how they have been unseen,
mm,
walking through life unseen,
yeah.
and everything from holding your ground on the sidewalk to just not being, stepping, having people step in front of you when you're in line,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
all of that. And it got into a very interesting conversation from the standpoint where there was, my Facebook, I keep my Facebook account private, and everyone on there are people that I know in
mhm,
real life. And a good friend of mine was in the conversation, and from her perspective as a white woman, she just didn't think that standing your ground on the sidewalk was appropriate, and two wrongs don't make a right, and all this. And it got very heated,
yeah.
some 90 some odd comments later over
Oh,
the days.
man.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it was that women, we are all women. We don't need to not see race and gender, or race in this, or the history, and
Mhm,
we need to move past that. And the folks on the string were trying to explain to her, like, we can't see past it because you may be able
mhm,
to see everyone in their wholeness and recognize their humanity, but a lot of people don't.
mhm,
So until that changes, we're still going to have these conversations and have like you say, reclaiming our space, and
mhm.
Maxine Waters reclaiming her time, and
Mhm, mhm.
I'm not stepping off the sidewalk, and I'm going to walk down the middle of the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and it was a really interesting conversation that still is sparking a lot of discourse offline about
Yeah.
how do we as Black women affirm our space,
Yeah.
and is it our responsibility to make others comfortable,
Right.
to what, and if so, to what extent,
Right.
and at what point in time, how do we have our white allies who are sensitive to, and see the slights, empower them to stand up and advocate on our behalf, to call out
Mhm.
their friends, and others that they see slighting us,
Mhm.
or moving like we're not even there.
Mhm.
And it's the power of these conversations around our space,
Mhm.
and our humanity. And
Mhm.
we, like you said, I am no less Black
Mhm.
than I am a woman, and
Mhm.
I have to walk through space in that, with at that intersection at all
Right.
times. And
Right.
I think it's challenging when one side is more, is overpowering the other,
Mhm.
for lack of better phrasing.
Yeah, it's funny because I would have beat the crap out of that woman. Like, so, but that's just me. I'm also from the hood. You touch my child, you come anywhere near my child, and we're scrapping. You won't even have time to pull the camera out. But you know that the invisibility is very real. I was in the airport Sunday, and I stood in line to get a coffee, and this white man just walked up and he just stood right. He just grabbed his water and just moved right in front of me, and it was a black man who was at the register, and we made eye contact and he said, "You don't see the woman standing right there?" And the guy turns around and looks and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there." For all those that are paying attention, I am 6 feet tall and over 250 pounds. It is very hard to not see me. Okay. But this
Hmm.
kind of thing happens all the time. So it's not necessarily about them not seeing us. It's just that they don't see us as worth considering. Right. So this idea of
Right,
like walking
right,
down the street, I
right.
always try to remind people that about 100 years ago, there almost 100 years ago, there was a campaign in Detroit called the Bumping Campaign, in which black people had agreed that they would not move out the way and that they would not look down and that they would slightly bump white people out of the way as they walked down the street. And that was their way of affirming their right to be there. And the reason why this was so important is because you were supposed to sidestep white people. You were supposed to look down and not make eye contact. And just that kind of subtle act of resistance and examples of things like that throughout our history that we don't learn in schools and that we're not really aware about, they're so empowering. It's letting us know that people before us didn't take this nonsense laying down. We have always resisted. We have always found ways to reclaim our space. And part of why I named it there, we were thinking about reclaiming our time, but then when I started writing, before we got there, well, as I started writing this, I was just like, all of this is about the occupation of public space, occupation, and our right to spaces. Whether
Hmm.
it's at
Hmm.
work, we have the right to be at our jobs, in meetings. In our relationships, we have the right to show up in defense of ourselves. Um,
Hmm.
you know, in politics, we have always been here, so we really are just reclaiming the power that goes with what we've always done. Our motherhood, right? Being a black mother means you're inherently a bad mother. That is what history has taught us. So
Right.
black women loving our children, we are reclaiming motherhood as ours and not a disposable characteristic to be used by white people to raise their children, right? So it's like each chapter I'm really looking at the ways in which, I mean, even in the Black Girls Are Magic, when I interview Kashawn Thompson, who came up with it,
Hmm.
I talk about how a lot of black women are returning to African spiritualities and practices. Like, we are reclaiming our spirituality, we are reclaiming our origins in so many different ways, and I see this as a movement that is happening right now that is so powerful. And my argument in the book is that the way we've been able to do this is because we've been able to connect online and build digital communities with women across the country and across the world. Were it not for the internet and for social media and for us having these gathering spaces, we may not feel so empowered to be so outspoken and publicly affirming and uniting and working together. The activists that I have worked with from around the country and the world, I would have never known were it not for places like Black Twitter or even Instagram and Facebook. So, Black women are finally realizing, you know what, we have the same experiences all around the world. We are connecting and we are reclaiming our right to be respected, valued, trusted, believed in,
Hmm.
empowered. You know what I mean? Like, these are all the ways that all the things that we are reclaiming for ourselves in this time. And it's a powerful moment. I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the other, um, for me, when I go on Twitter and Instagram and I see these tags and I see these women stepping forward and sharing their story, I like it, or I retweet it, and it's my way of saying I see you,
Mhm.
I value you,
Mhm.
and I'm uplifting your voice. And I
Mhm.
think that is something, one of the one of the reasons that we started Higher Heights and the way that we started
Mhm.
it, as it really built it to be an online community, was to provide that community for that woman who is, we have a member in Hawaii who is, I'm actually surprised I don't see her on right now, but she has emailed us offline that when we started doing these webinars about 3 years ago, she said, there's so rare that I see other Black women in leadership roles where I am, just physically, and to be able to be part of this community. It is affirming, it is reassuring, it is uplifting. It is, she's like, I look forward to those emails when it's saying that you guys are doing something because it means I can connect, and that, it makes me realize that I'm not alone in this process. And I think that is, in addition to amplifying the message, but allowing Black women to see each other and to uplift each other is so critically important, because we're all going through the variations of the same story, and to see someone who has come out on the other side, or who is 2 steps ahead of you, and say, okay, I see that they have made it here.
Yeah.
I can make it as well. And then also giving that opportunity to reach back and say, you can do this. I see where you are. I was there, 3 months ago, but you can do this, and you can plug on. I think that is, really a great value to creating these spaces for Black women to connect and support each other, and to also push the narrative and drive the conversation of like, no, Black women, just a reminder, Black women did what we were supposed to do in 2016. Go talk to Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and tell them to get their followers, because we did what we were supposed to do.
But it's
and it's a great
amplifying, right?
opportunity.
It's like, Beyonce, I'm going to remind you that you're a Black woman and your job is to work for me. That's all that
Right.
was,
Right.
and there's a
Right.
lot of white
Right.
people who can be very progressive or what have you, but cannot divest of that anti-Blackness. There's no other way to think
Right.
about it. And it
Right.
informs
I don't even think that
everything
they're
that they do.
necessarily seeing it that way.
They don't see it that way, but that's why we here, and we kind of point that out, right? And the ways in which we've been silent in our personal lives because we're scared to rock the boat sometimes. We don't want to be at Thanksgiving and say, hey, Grandpa, that's not something that you should be saying. But when you have a community of 20 other women that are there with you to back up what you're saying, you feel stronger, and you feel like, yes, I can say this, and it is wrong, and I don't want to hide it anymore. And you've got an echo chamber of people that are like, that's right, And I talked
Right.
about how like Twitter is it's why Black women are so good at it, because it's kind of built as a call and response kind of a mechanism, and it really reflects how we talk. Like we constantly, yes, girl, yes, you got this, I support you, I'm here. And the way we use the retweets and the likes, like you said, it's like, I see you, I affirm you, amen, hallelujah, I mean, all of that. and
Right.
and that's something
Right.
that works very well with us. And now we're at the point where politicians are seeking us out for their private dinners. We have brands are seeking us out to promote their things. When a new movie comes out, they're reaching out to folks like me. Can you help us promote it? Like people are
Right.
recognizing that we are the ones who have built the strongest communities on the online. We have the most power online, and they know who they need to go to. We just have to be more discerning with where how we leverage our power and how we use the collective voice that we have.
Right. And switching to
Mhm,
the other side of that coin,
mhm,
power concedes nothing. As Frederick Douglass says, when you are taking that power and really and wielding it in a way that is affirming to women, and as some believe, if you are affirming of women, you are demeaning men instead of saying
mm,
you're just affirming women.
mhm,
I know you have had to deal with harassment
mhm,
online, and you talk about in your opening of the book about how someone asked you if you were part of the CIA
Yes.
because your work was was your primary work was to dismantle Black families, if I'm remembering
Yeah.
correctly, and put Black men in prison.
Yeah.
So that is mind blowing
Yeah.
that someone would make that jump, but it's mind blowing, but not surprising. And
Not at
unfortunately, I
all.
know it is just the tip of the iceberg of the experiences that you've had. As the folks online and watching begin to take their space, reclaim their space.
Hmm.
What advice do you have for all women? And we'll probably actually pull this piece out and
Hmm.
share it, broadly about how to stay safe
Mm.
online and respond appropriately when you're
Hmm.
being attacked, from various angles. Because we know in this environment,
Hmm.
trolls are, some of them are trolls, and then some are just people who are, just spoiling for a fight and will not let
Hmm.
let the bone go.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of echo chambers. I don't believe that you have to engage anybody that you don't want to. And unfortunately, when you exist, especially as a public figure or you're in this public space, people will feel entitled to a response from you. They will feel entitled to a debate from you. And you're just like, wait a minute, do I know you? um, so first of all, you have to learn your own personal threshold for things. I tend to turn things into humor. Like when somebody says something really ridiculous, I like I'll share like an equally ridiculous statement or a joke or something like that because I don't even take them seriously and I don't want them thinking I take them seriously. Most of the time, I just block someone. I have no problem blocking people. I think I've used all these kinds of blocking extensions. I've got hundreds of thousands of people blocked. I don't care because I don't feel like I owe anyone my words or my space. There have been campaigns that have been, launched to target me in ways. I've been doxxed. I've had to change my phone number. I was thankful to move because my address had been put out. My son switched schools, thankfully, because his school had been put out. These are the kinds of things that you
Mm.
deal with when you are daring to say that women should be free and should be equal, right? Or when you decide that Black people should be free and should be equal. There's a lot of people that respond negatively to that. Um, my advice is to stand in your own truth and speak with integrity, speak with your whole
Mm-hmm.
heart, speak with your the fullness of your spirit, because that's all we really have as Black women. That's I mean, so much has been taken from us, and what keeps us going is the integrity of our own minds and our spirits and the community that we have with each other. That's one thing I can say, is that no matter what happens, there's always going to be Black women in my mentions or in my comments who are backing me up and showing me love and support. And I don't think I could do any of this without them. They're the ones who buy my books. They're the one who share my articles. They're the ones who come to events like this and listen and support. So I'd be nothing without them. My other piece of advice is take time to yourself as needed. Um, I haven't been as active in the last few days because I just was like, I'm tired. And there's some other things that I have going on creatively that I want to focus on. And social media can be a distraction. And with all this impeachment talk and all of this other stuff, and people are just spinning, 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 spinning. Yesterday, I went through and I unfollowed every news source that I was following: CNN, CBS, all the local, state, federal, all those major platforms. I unfollowed and muted all of them. And I already feel better because I'm not logging on to like 20 tweets talking about breaking news, and the anxiety that it brings. I'm focusing more on following the people who I feel good about, who are saying things that I think are amazing, who are teaching me things, who are sharing, really, really good stuff. I want to see the great things that Black women are doing. I don't need to see videos of a Black woman being beaten up or a Black child being yelled at. I know that happens. I'm 40 years old. I've seen it my whole life. I want to see the pictures of Black women breaking records, or the single mom who finished college, or the little girl who learned how to read in another language. That's the stuff that I want to see. So
Right.
curate your social media to to serve you well, to serve your spirit well. Connect with the people that you have things in common, that you can build safe spaces and supportive spaces with. Try not to get too much into the gossip, into the dragging and all of that stuff. Stuff is funny, but after a while, it really starts to get to you. And just know there's going to be trolls. There's whole coordinated efforts to try to silence us and take us down. Just block and mute, block and mute.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think that is definitely sound advice. I saw that you tweeted that you had stopped following news
Mhm.
outlets. I was like, oh,
Yep,
that is a really good
yep,
idea.
yep.
And I am planning on going through my
Mhm.
all the folks and entities that I follow
I had
and
like 25 or 30 that I
really
was
curious.
following. It was like,
Right.
come on, like let me get my dose of the news when I choose to. Maybe it's the end of the day that I read some wrap ups or something, but the constant barrage of it is just too much.
Yeah, and then they're all talking about the same thing over and over
Exactly.
again. So it's yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that for all of us, I think part of the drawback of the 24-hour news cycle, and now Twitter is a wonderful tool, but it also has this drawback where we're just inundated with the same things, and unfortunately, there's so much negativity out there that
Hmm.
we're not seeing the cat videos. And Glenda,
Yeah.
for those of you who have been on these webinars before, know she talks about her cat videos, that she
Those are the
will take
best.
take a break for a cute cat video, and there are days when she'll text me and say, I just saw this, and
Mhm.
it just gives me a little laugh break. But then there's also the stories of empowerment and
Mhm.
joy and happiness that are out there that get drowned out
Yeah.
by the echo chamber of the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, and I want us to make sure that we're using this very powerful tool of social media to really make change in our communities. I'm launching a podcast next month called Black Girl Missing, and it's a true crime podcast, and we're gonna focus on all the Black girls that have been kidnapped from 0 to 14, or they've been taken or runaways or whatever happened, and kind of amplifying their stories. And if they're still missing, trying to help families, get more information to find them. I want to see more stuff like that. I want to see us using this tool to mobilize and like organize bus trips to the polls, and the kind of things that we've been
Mm-hmm.
doing when they were doing pizza to the polls. I'm like, Black women, we could be doing soul food to the polls, like whatever it
Right,
is, like how
right.
can we use the tools to really start focusing more on that and less on the negative things that for my own mental health, I started realizing I was having more depressive episodes. My anxiety has been through the roof. It's been getting worse. And I'm like, I absolutely have to do something about that. And so many sisters are talking about the same things. And I'm like, y'all,
Mm-hmm.
this is directly related to our consumption of all of this trauma over and over and over. We have to do something about it.
Yeah, yeah. That is. If those of you who are online and listening, if you take away one thing, that we need to control and curate our consumption of news and trauma and keep it to a minimum for our own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot reiterate that enough,
Yeah.
because it is, we, as much as we, there's also that perception that Black women are tough and we take it all, and take it all in stride, and
Nope.
nothing bothers us, and we can still do a million things at once without skipping a beat, and
Right.
that we all know that is not true.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to stop acting
Right.
like it is,
Right. Like
and really.
like I don't mean to cut you off. Like the whole thing about the Black maternal mortality rate. We know this. We have known it
Yep.
for generations. We've been waiting for people to
Exactly.
study it concretely, but we know it. how many articles and videos do we have to see about Black women dying in childbirth, to the point where I think like it's done on purpose to discourage us from having children. Like that's what's happening. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, how much can we
Right.
take? You know?
Right. Right. Yeah, because I mean, you have your own stories. I mean,
Yeah.
I know, I have 3 friends, not even thinking back to, uh, my aunts and others who have had trauma during birth, but I have 3 of my peers who, nearly died, either during delivery, soon thereafter. We don't need the
Hmm.
amplification of these stories because we have them in our own lives.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that we, just because it's not being discussed in the national news doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
But this is where we also use platforms like Twitter and other social media platforms to amplify in a way that is constructive and
Yeah.
not just saying, the numbers are, you
Hmm.
are more likely to die
Hmm.
if you are Black and you have
Hmm.
and you're having a baby and you live in New York.
Yeah,
That's
it's with
not
babies, it's with
helpful.
relationships and marriage, it's with careers. There's all these negative statistics over and over and over again. And I'm like, but guess what? We're also doing all these amazing things and we're overcoming these things. And these are small percentages. And, like, what about all the women that have been successful? Let's share more of those stories so that we are empowering ourselves and our daughters and our nieces and all those that are looking up to us. Like, let's give them something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one last question from me before we open it up for questions from the audience. So everybody online, you can start dropping your questions into the chat box or text us at
I gotta plug in
646
my computer. Hold on.
494 9620.
Hold on. I don't want my computer to shut off. Okay, a second. Okay.
And that
I
number
got
is 646 494 9620. Or you can drop your question into the text box, into the chat box on the left-hand side of your screen. So I think you and Glenda may have had this conversation, but
mhm.
I don't think you and I have had this conversation. So what made you decide that you wanted to become involved in Higher Heights and become a member of our founding circle?
It was L. Joy Williams. She's just like, come to this thing. And I was like, okay. I love her so much. She's so awesome. And I came to the meeting and I saw all these Black women like kind of standing around and they were talking about politics and putting together this pack. And I was like, yeah, I want to be part of this. And, was doing it for as long as I could. I like had stopped working like last year. So I was like, I can't, keep up. But however I can support through promoting the work and things like that. But that's definitely an honor of mine. I was like, they're going to get this off. They're going to be supporting Black women that are running for office. I mean, that's exactly what we need. And it's funny because, like, I'm not, you can see my cat in the background. That's Lisa. She's being nosy. Uh, I've never been one to be like, I'm going to give money towards politics because I didn't see Black women running for things growing
Mm-hmm.
up, right? And then when I found this space, it's like, oh, so if I give my money, this will go towards Black women that are running. Okay, this I can get down with, like
Mm-hmm.
that was it for me. So I was like, yay. And then pretty much anytime you guys ask me to do something, I'm there. So,
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And we love you for it. We definitely love you for it. Um, and I just can't thank you enough for including Black Women Lead and Black Women Vote in the book.
yes.
When Glenda and I dreamt up Higher Heights, God, now 8 years ago, coming up on 9. Oh, shock. We just wanted to try and make a difference. We didn't know if it was going to be successful. We didn't know if it was going to have any reach, but as we went along the road and picked up people like you and others who helped us amplify
Mhm.
we're very clear that we would not be the organization and the movement that we are now without people like you. So
Mhm.
thank you.
Oh, thank you for existing. This is pretty awesome. Lisa says thank you too.
Wonderful. So,
Mhm.
again, we're opening it up for questions. We did get a text in. Someone wants to know, what is your next book project? She's read everything else, everything that you've written to date. What is next?
That is so awesome. First of all, thank you. That's cool.
I
So
wish
what's
I could
happened?
have a phone number.
Uh, so what's happening next is in a couple of weeks, I am re-releasing my very first book, Push the Button. It's the fifth anniversary of this book. The book was self-published and was so tremendously successful, and it really launched my career. And I never imagined that I'd be writing a book like that because it's like a romance novel. But it was just so fun and so popular, and really helped get my name out there as an author, right? So I'm re-releasing that, and it actually has an alternate ending, and it actually includes a new story, which is about like 30 pages long, so it's
Ooh.
really good and juicy. So I think like the fans have been getting at me like, we need more, we need more, we need more. So I'm finally able to do that. In terms of other stuff, believe it or not, yeah, believe it because I'm saying it. I'm applying to graduate school. So I want to get my
Oh,
PhD.
wow.
Yeah. I wasn't going to do it before, but when I turned 40, I was like, you've pretty much done everything you've set out to do in life. So you got to find something else to do. And I said, why don't
Awesome.
you go get a PhD? So I'm actually applying for that. And my hope is that my next book will be in the form maybe of a dissertation or something related to hip hop culture. That has been my
Mm.
passion, writing about women in hip hop. Actually, I want to study Black motherhood and how it's been represented in hip hop culture. So that's what I'm looking to do next.
Oh, ooh, I'm excited about that one.
Yeah.
My book project that I'm working on is
Yes.
about the intersection of activism and motherhood as a Black
Yes.
woman, and it is a series of conversations with many of my friends
Hmm.
who we've all been talking about. How do we do this, and how do you balance your loyalty between the movement and your family, and then
Yeah.
also the depiction of and the perceptions of Black motherhood, and how that plays into movement work, and how what we feel we are and are not allowed to do, compared to our white counterparts.
Hmm.
So that's something that I'm working on.
That's major.
For all of
Congratulations
you.
on that. I'm looking forward to that. Like, I do have a section on Black, I call Black Mamas Matter. But the exploration of that, there's so much that you could go into,
Yep.
like the fact that I had my kid protesting when he was 7 is because I felt I had no choice. Like, if I want
Right.
my kid to live and I want him to learn about what's really happening, I gotta teach him. So I had to have my kid out there. A lot of white parents don't even think about teaching their children about issues of race and class and things like that young. But I feel like I had no choice,
Hmm.
and then
Right.
how people look at you when they see you out there protesting and they're like, "Oh, well, where's your kid? He's at home with his dad, he does have a dad," like those kinds of things, like the assumption that I'm a single mother who's neglectful to
Right.
her children,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with
Right.
being a single mother, but it's the you must be neglecting your child because your child is not with you at all times, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, I can't wait to read that one, buddy. Woo.
Yeah. 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 You're neglecting either way you slice it, you're neglecting your child. You're either neglecting the child or neglecting the movement,
Yeah.
by choosing that, okay, my kid is sick, so I need to stay home,
Mhm.
or I just need to, you know we've got some tests coming up, and I need to be home and
That's
help
it.
study. um as opposed to going to that organizing meeting or, making that business trip. I had a conversation with a friend of mine who was really, really torn about going to She the People, which was the candidate forum in Houston back in March, I believe it was, that was solely focused on women of color. And she was like, I am, up until like 2 or 3 days before, she hadn't decided whether or not she was going because her 3-year-old had 3 lines in the school play, and she was feeling really torn about whether or not she could, either event. Both events were historic, and he was making his debut on stage.
Come on.
Yeah. So. Or you have these candidates talking about, women's issues, which is her life's work. And she ultimately decided to stay stay with her son and watch that performance. And she has no regrets. No regrets. But, I was in Houston.
I got invited to 2 things. Yeah, I got invited to 2 things that are happening this weekend, 2 organizing related things. And my kid's turning 13, and we're having a birthday party. Sorry.
Yep. And then you have that conversation of like, but what about the movement? And I thought that, we need your voice in this. Yeah, I also need to be with my kids. But then there's also the flip side of like right.
I do this because I want a better future for my children, Okay. Yeah, it gets on my nerves sometimes.
And then there's also the flip side of like, my kid's going to be okay whether I'm there or not, so I need to go do this.
Yeah.
So that's real life. So that's what I'm working on. Stay tuned, everybody. Working, trying to stay disciplined and stay on my schedule. We'll have a conversation offline about how you do that, but it's a process. And I thought I was ready, and I thought I knew what I needed to know, but wow, writing a book, it's a lot.
Yeah, wait till you start pushing it.
No, I know.
You're gonna be great, though.
Thank you. I hope so. If I can get it done. So, if there are no other questions, I want to thank Feminista for joining us this evening and remind everybody that this is the 4th in our series. And next week, I will be back with Tiffany DeFoo talking about dropping the ball, how to do more by doing less. And I'm almost done with the book, and I've already started dropping balls here and there, and it has definitely made my life better. But it's also that crux that, we feel as women that we can do everything, and everybody expects us to do everything, but that's just not the reality. And then join us back on Tuesday, October 13th for a conversation with Jamia Wilson. She has a great book that I was so thrilled to see was in my daughter's school library. There are multiple copies. She goes to a predominantly white school. So for her to have Jamia's book, because I know Jamia, and that made me very excited, but to also have her book about Martin Luther King in the library was, it spoke a lot to me and made me very proud that she is at that school. So, Higher Heights is an organization that is built for and by Black women, and we need your help continuously to help us move to higher heights. Support our training programs, and by joining our webinar series, we try and reach people all across the country. Folks always ask us if we have chapters. So no, you can meet us online, you can meet us on Twitter, you can meet us through Facebook Live events and webinars like this, or just join our mailing list. Participate in our Sunday brunch conversations that are held online using hashtags. And consider hosting a salon conversation where we bring together Black women to talk about the challenges and opportunities to expand Black women's leadership. We also invite you to become a builder, a member of Higher Heights. Everyone on this call, you are now officially a member of this national organization, 90+ thousand strong all across the country, and help us continue to grow by recruiting members, become a builder, by helping us by reaching out to your network and encouraging Black women, white women, allies, our male supporters to all be part of this movement and this moment, because we know when we have more diverse voices around decision-making tables, better decisions are made, full stop. You can also become a monthly sustaining member, whether it is $5 a month, $25 a month, $100 a month. Your contribution goes directly to help support the leadership pipeline for Black women at all levels, whether they are want to become more regular voters, they're sporadic voters, whether they want to become activists in their communities, or engage and take that step further to actually also run for office. And encourage our network to follow us online. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram at Higher Heights on Twitter, and Higher Heights the number 4 on Facebook and Instagram. And then you can always find us using the hashtag Black Women Lead. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for Feminista for sharing your story, for helping us reclaim our space. Because it is ours.
Yes.
And holding that. And we hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. And we will see you back here next Tuesday with Tiffany Dufu at 7 p.m. Eastern. And we look forward to talking to you and seeing you all then. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.